Welcome to Norway, a land where nature seems larger than life. Here, towering mountains rise above deep blue fjords, waterfalls tumble down ancient cliffs, and quiet villages rest between the sea and the mountains. Norway is a country shaped by water, ice, wind, and time. For thousands of years, enormous glaciers carved their way through the landscape, creating the dramatic valleys and fjords that make this country so extraordinary today. As we begin our journey, take a moment to simply enjoy the view. The mountains stand like silent guardians above the water, while clouds drift slowly across the sky. In places like this, nature sets the rhythm. The fjords are among Norway's greatest natural treasures. These long, narrow waterways reach deep into the land. Some are surrounded by cliffs rising hundreds of meters almost straight from the water. From a distance, they can look peaceful and gentle, but their enormous scale tells the story of powerful geological forces. During the Ice Age, glaciers moved slowly through these valleys, grinding away rock over thousands of years. When the climate became warmer and the glaciers retreated, seawater filled the deep valleys they left behind. The result is the spectacular landscape we see today. Among Norway's most famous fjords are the Geirangerfjord, the Nærøy Fjord, the Sognefjord, and the Hardangerfjord. Each has its own character, but all share that remarkable combination of mountains, water, and wilderness. Waterfalls appear almost everywhere in the Norwegian landscape. After rain or when mountain snow begins to melt, streams of water rush down steep cliffs and disappear into rivers and fjords below. Some waterfalls are powerful and thunderous. Others look like thin silver ribbons flowing gently across dark rock. And yet Norway is not only about dramatic landscapes. Look closer and you discover countless peaceful details. Small houses beside the water, green fields beneath enormous mountains, narrow roads following the coastline, and tiny boats crossing quiet fjords. Life here has always been closely connected to nature. For generations, people have depended on the sea for food, transportation, and trade. Fishing communities developed along Norway's long coastline, and many settlements were built in places that still seem incredibly remote today. Norway has one of the longest and most complex coastlines in Europe. Thousands of islands, bays, and inlets create an ever-changing landscape where land and sea constantly meet. Travel farther north, and the scenery changes again. The mountains become more rugged, the settlements more scattered, and the Arctic begins to make its presence felt. In northern Norway, summer brings one of nature's most fascinating phenomena, the midnight sun. For weeks, and in some places for months, the sun does not completely disappear below the horizon. Imagine standing beside a quiet fjord late at night, while the landscape is still illuminated by warm sunlight. Winter brings the opposite experience. The nights become long and dark, but darkness creates the perfect stage for another extraordinary spectacle. The northern lights. Green, purple, and sometimes reddish colors can dance across the Arctic sky. The aurora may begin as a faint glow and then suddenly stretch across the heavens in moving curtains of light. For centuries, people created stories and legends to explain this mysterious phenomenon. Today we understand its scientific origins, but seeing it with your own eyes can still feel almost magical. Norway's wilderness is also home to a remarkable variety of wildlife. Reindeer roam parts of the north. Moose move through forests and valleys. Along the coast, seabirds gather on rocky cliffs, while whales can sometimes be seen in Norwegian waters. Farther into the Arctic, the Svalbard archipelago represents an even wilder side of Norway, with glaciers, frozen landscapes, and animals adapted to extreme conditions. But one of the most beautiful things about Norway is how quickly the landscape can change. A journey may begin beside a calm fjord, continue through a green valley, climb into snow-covered mountains, and eventually reach a windswept coastline. Around every bend, another view seems to appear. Roads curve between mountains, bridges connect islands, ferries cross deep stretches of water. Small villages appear unexpectedly beneath towering cliffs. Sometimes the most memorable moments are not famous landmarks at all. They are the quiet moments, the reflection of a mountain on perfectly still water, the sound of a waterfall somewhere in the distance, mist moving through a valley early in the morning, sunlight breaking through the clouds and touching the side of a mountain. These moments remind us that nature does not always need to be dramatic to be beautiful. Norway also changes dramatically with the seasons. Spring brings melting snow and powerful waterfalls. Summer fills the valleys with green vegetation and gives the north its endless daylight. Autumn transforms forests and mountainsides into shades of yellow, orange, and red. Then winter arrives. Snow covers the mountains and valleys, lakes freeze, and the landscape becomes quieter. In many places, Norway seems transformed into an entirely different world. Despite the cold, winter is an important part of Norwegian life. Skiing, hiking, and spending time outdoors are deeply connected to the culture. There is a strong appreciation here for being outside and experiencing nature, rather than simply observing it from a distance. Perhaps that is one reason Norway's landscapes feel so special. They are not separated from everyday life. Mountains, forests, fjords, and the sea are part of the environment in which people live. At the same time, these landscapes remind us how small we are. Stand beneath a Norwegian mountain or look across a vast fjord and human scale suddenly changes. What seemed enormous before can feel tiny compared with cliffs shaped over millions of years. And that may be the real magic of Norway. It is not only what you see, it is what the landscape makes you feel. Peace, wonder, freedom, and perhaps a little humility before the power and beauty of our planet. From its deep fjords and powerful waterfalls to its Arctic skies, forests, islands, and snow-covered mountains, Norway offers an extraordinary reminder of what nature can create when given enough time. So for a moment, forget the noise of everyday life. Watch the water, follow the mountains, listen to the wind, and simply enjoy the journey through one of Europe's most spectacular natural landscapes. This is Norway. Wild, peaceful, timeless. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Norway. If you enjoyed discovering the beauty of our planet, leave a like and subscribe for more journeys into the world's most incredible landscapes. NaturaVision. Discover the beauty of our planet. As our journey continues, Norway reveals another side of its extraordinary character. Here, mountains and water are almost inseparable. Steep slopes descend toward peaceful fjords, while rivers and waterfalls carry fresh mountain water toward the sea. These landscapes may look permanent, but they are the result of an incredibly long process of change. Millions of years of geological activity created the mountains, and later, enormous glaciers transformed the valleys. Ice moved slowly but powerfully across the land, carving deep channels through the rock. When the glaciers eventually retreated, seawater entered many of these valleys, creating the fjords that have become one of Norway's most recognizable natural features. Some Norwegian fjords stretch far inland, surrounded by mountains that rise dramatically from the water. From above, they can appear almost like enormous blue roads cutting through the landscape. From the shore, however, their scale feels completely different. The mountains seem higher, the water deeper, and the distance greater. In many places, waterfalls descend directly from the mountains into the valleys and fjords below. During spring and early summer, melting snow increases the flow of water. Streams that were small during colder months can become powerful waterfalls rushing down the mountainsides. Water is constantly moving through this landscape. Snow becomes streams, streams become rivers. Rivers travel through valleys and eventually reach the fjords and the ocean. This continuous movement of water gives Norway much of its distinctive beauty. But between these enormous natural formations, we also find signs of human life. Small villages appear beside the water, sometimes surrounded by landscapes that seem far too large for them. Houses stand beneath mountains. Farms occupy narrow areas of fertile land. Roads follow the natural curves of the coastline. For generations, People living in these regions learned to adapt to the geography rather than fight against it. The sea became a highway. Boats connected communities long before modern roads and tunnels made travel easier. Fishing provided food and income, while sheltered bays offered places where settlements could develop. Even today, Norway's relationship with the sea remains extremely important. Travel along the coast and you encounter countless islands, fishing villages, and harbors. Farther north, the landscape becomes increasingly dramatic. One of the most famous regions is the Lofoten archipelago. Here, sharp mountain peaks rise directly from the sea, while small communities sit along narrow strips of coastline. Traditional fishermen's cabins, often painted in strong colors, create a striking contrast against mountains, water, and snow. Fishing has shaped life in these islands for centuries. The surrounding waters are rich in marine life, and seasonal fishing has historically played an important role in local communities. Yet Lofoten is also famous simply for its beauty. White beaches appear beneath rugged mountains. Clear water reflects changing skies. Tiny roads connect settlements surrounded by enormous natural scenery. It is a place where the Arctic can sometimes look surprisingly gentle. But conditions can change quickly. Calm water may become rough. Clear skies can disappear behind clouds. Wind can move rapidly through mountain valleys. This unpredictability is part of the Norwegian landscape. Nature here is beautiful, but it also commands respect. As we move through these scenes, notice how often the landscape changes. One moment we are surrounded by mountains. The next, we are looking across open water. Then a waterfall appears, followed by a quiet village or a green valley. Norway never seems to remain the same for very long. And perhaps this constant variety is one reason traveling through the country can feel like moving through several different worlds. Every valley has its own character. Every fjord reflects the light differently. Every mountain seems to tell another chapter in the story of this ancient landscape. And now, as our journey moves deeper into Norway's wilderness, another important part of this country comes into view: its wildlife. Animals living in the north must survive conditions that can change dramatically throughout the year. Winters can be long and cold, while summers bring extended daylight and new opportunities for feeding and raising young. Among the animals most strongly associated with northern Scandinavia is the reindeer. Reindeer are remarkably well adapted to cold environments. Their thick coats provide insulation against low temperatures, and their broad hooves help them move across snow and soft ground. During different seasons, they travel through landscapes in search of food. Reindeer also have an important connection with the Sami, the indigenous people of northern Norway, Sweden, Finland, and parts of Russia. For many Sami communities, reindeer herding has been an important cultural and economic tradition for generations. This relationship between people, animals, and landscape is part of the living heritage of the Arctic North. Norway's wildlife, however, extends far beyond reindeer. Moose inhabit forests and valleys, while red deer can be found in different parts of the country. High in mountainous areas, smaller animals must survive harsh winds, snow, and rapidly changing temperatures. Along the coast, Norway becomes a completely different wildlife environment. Seabirds gather around cliffs and islands, using remote areas for nesting. Beneath the surface, cold northern waters support an enormous marine ecosystem. Fish have supported coastal communities for centuries, while whales and other marine mammals can also be encountered in Norwegian waters. Farther north lies an even more extreme world. Between mainland Norway and the North Pole is the Arctic archipelago of Svalbard. Here, glaciers, mountains, and frozen landscapes dominate the horizon. Life survives under some of Europe's most demanding environmental conditions. Svalbard is also associated with one of the Arctic's most famous predators, the polar bear. But whether we look at a powerful predator, a reindeer crossing open ground, or a bird flying above a fjord, every animal is part of a much larger natural system. The landscape provides food and shelter, but survival requires adaptation. Seasons determine when food is available. Snow and ice influence movement. Light itself changes dramatically throughout the year. During summer in the far north, the sun can remain above the horizon, even around midnight. This is the famous midnight sun. Instead of darkness arriving at the end of the day, golden light may continue across mountains and water late into the night. The experience can feel almost unreal. Winter reverses this cycle. Days become extremely short, and in the far north, the sun may remain below the horizon for an extended period. Yet the darkness brings one of Norway's most celebrated natural spectacles: the Northern Lights. On clear nights, colors may appear across the sky, sometimes as a gentle green glow and sometimes as enormous moving curtains of light. Science explains the aurora through interactions between charged particles from the sun and Earth's magnetic environment. But scientific understanding does not remove the wonder of seeing it. Beneath an Arctic sky, surrounded by mountains and snow, the northern lights can make the landscape feel almost otherworldly. And this contrast between light and darkness is another reminder of Norway's extraordinary relationship with the seasons. Throughout this journey, we have seen a country shaped by extremes: deep fjords and high mountains, powerful waterfalls and perfectly still water, long summer days and dark Arctic winters, remote wilderness and small communities that have learned to live within it. Norway shows us that beauty can be dramatic, but it can also be quiet. Sometimes beauty is a mountain disappearing into the clouds. Sometimes it is a small house beside an enormous fjord. Sometimes it is an animal moving silently across the landscape. And sometimes it is simply sunlight reflecting on water. These places have existed long before us, and they will continue changing long after we are gone. Glaciers move, rivers carve their paths, seasons return, mountains slowly change under wind, water, and ice. Nature is never completely still, and perhaps that is the greatest lesson of landscapes like these. Our planet is constantly creating, changing, and adapting. Norway allows us to witness that process on an extraordinary scale. From its Arctic wildlife to its peaceful villages, from its waterfalls and mountains to its legendary fjords, this country reminds us how diverse our world can be. So as our journey comes to an end, take one final moment to enjoy the landscape, the mountains, the water, the wildlife, the silence, and the feeling of standing at the edge of something much greater than ourselves. This is Norway, a land shaped by ice, surrounded by water, and defined by nature. Thank you for traveling with us. If you enjoyed this journey, please like the video and subscribe for more beautiful destinations, wildlife, and natural wonders from around the world. Until our next journey, keep exploring, keep discovering, and never stop appreciating the extraordinary beauty of our planet. NaturaVision. Discover the beauty of our planet.